Do you wonder about past lives? Have you ever thought about where your soul has been, where it's going, or what lessons and memories have been gathered along the way? In this podcast, we will discuss past life memories, psychic phenomena, energy healing, and other metaphysical topics with experts and the average person to find out how we can heal through these experiences. So I invite you to join me on my journey. Welcome to the Regression Session.
Give me a few notes of something. I want to hear.
I'm not warmed up, but let's see. Let it go, let it go.
Wow, nice. You could be on Broadway.
Thank you. Welcome back to the Regression Session. My name is Ian. Welcome to the Regression Session. To any new people just tuning in, we love you. Before we get into this episode, I just want to mention that there's some behind-the-scenes content from this conversation, along with some additional content from other episodes available on my Patreon. So if you're interested in going a little deeper and seeing more of what these conversations look like behind the scenes, you can check that out through the link in the description of this episode or by going to exploringhealing.com/support. Another great way to support the show is to subscribe, share, and follow the podcast in your podcast player or on YouTube or wherever that you guys are listening to it. Also, I was recently a guest on a podcast called The Rebellious Soul Collective, where we talked about what it looks like when life actually starts to feel good, how to navigate that, and how to stay aligned when things are flowing. Links to that are in the description as well, so definitely go check them out. Excellent podcast with really great insights. In this episode, I'm joined by Barbara Banner, a no BS psychic, evidential, and trance medium known for delivering incredibly accurate messages with humor, honesty, and real healing. We dive into the world of mediumship and explore how it overlaps with past life regression, near-death experiences, and even things like ghosts. And this conversation really kind of opens up a bigger picture of how all of these different practices are kind of linked together. And I'm really excited to bring this conversation to you guys. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Barbara. Hey, Barbara, welcome to the show.
Well, I'm very glad to be here, and I'm sure we're going to have an interesting discussion about many things spiritual. So,
yeah, I'm really excited. I've been thinking about this a lot because like I said, I'm going to ask you a question about a story I'm going to tell you. But before we get into that, if you don't mind, just telling my audience just a little bit about yourself, you know, what you do, who you are. You don't have to go into crazy detail, but just a little bit.
I was in advertising for like 35 years and I loved it. And all of a sudden, during the pandemic, my house turned into a paranormal storm and stuff happened and things flying off shelves, lights flashing, fans going on automatically, orbs in a video. I just, and it was cool. It wasn't like I was scared because I'd always been interested in that stuff. But it turned out I decided, okay, they're calling me, I better answer. And I took a mediumship class, which was like soul to soul. And I found out I was a medium, okay? Like just like I never even meditated before. And all of a sudden, I'm bringing my father through on my first practice. So I thought, hey, this is pretty easy. I'm going to go forward. 7 months later, I hung a shingle, and I've been just boom since. And then I found out through different channels that I've been doing this for about 1,000 years. So that's sort of why I just hit the road running.
I love it. when these things happen, it's usually like you're not really given a choice when you're activated,
And that's interesting you said that word. I feel like, spirit put me on ice for like, many, many decades. And then all of a sudden they decided, well, the world has really opened up and is listening to this. We better wake her up. And they reactivated me. That's exactly what I say.
Yeah. They're like, now's the time.
Now's the time.
You came here to do this.
Yeah.
And then you can't really go back. Like once that switch is flipped, you can't really just be like, God, I don't really want to do this, because then it just becomes a part of who you are.
Well, I think they wouldn't have given it to me back if they didn't know I would want to do it. Because if I've been doing it 1,000 years in a lot of lifetimes, it's obviously part of my soul. So
yeah, exactly.
Spirit doesn't make mistakes, Ian. Okay, they are intelligent.
Well, I wish that I could say that they make mistakes, because then a lot of stuff the mistakes I've made, I could just blame on them.
But you understand that every challenge that we have, and even when you think you made a mistake, you've learned a lesson. And that's all we're here for, is to learn lessons, get rid of some karma, and evolve our soul. That's it. So what you call a mistake, you just learned a lesson. And in your next lifetime, you don't have to take that class again. So, one down.
I hope so. I hope that I can just get rid of everything. I've had a long time. I've always just been like, God, I don't want to come back here.
I know, but when you have a tough one, maybe next one is going to be you're a beach bum, and have a beautiful shack on the Bahamas, and you're just going to fish and surf all day. So it could be good.
I like it. I wish. That sounds fun.
See?
I want to tell you a story, okay, and I want to get your thoughts on it. And
sure.
Just because you're a medium, right? You channel spirits, family members, whoever decides to come through. And this story is about a past life regression that I was doing for a woman. And I've had a few sessions that have made me really reconsider what's possible with like past life regression and hypnosis, because it gets to a point where people are channeling past lives that they will come out and they will actually say to me in the session, I don't think this was my past life. I think this was a different past life. I think this was someone else's past life. And I've had this happen like a bunch of times where people will say this to me, and I'm not sure that was my past life. And I even have these spirits like come through and start talking to me. I've had one of them that even just came out and said, Ian, I don't think I'm so-and-so's past life. So here is the story, okay? I was doing a past life regression on this woman, and what happened was she remembered being in like the mid to late 1800s, and she was pregnant. She was having an affair with a wealthy man. She was like lower class. It was in America, right? She ended up getting pregnant, and she had this house, and this person, he came up to her and told her that they need to get rid of the baby because it was an illegitimate baby, and it was going to cause him a lot of problems. He was very wealthy, engaged, things like that. Just a lot of details came through in this session. And what ended up happening, I guess, is she refused. She said she wanted to have the baby. She was very excited about having the baby. And then he ended up murdering her in this house. Very brutally. It's horrible. But we went through and we did some healing work, and we helped this woman to kind of reconcile what happened, heal the trauma, give her what she needed, and then move on to where she needed to go. And what happened after we did that, Barbara, is the lady that I was doing the session for, she just stops for a second and she goes, oh, wow, we just fixed a haunted house. We just cured a haunted house. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, well, I can tell, she said, I can feel that there was a ghost in this same house right now that's been haunting this house. And I can feel like they're gone now. They're not there anymore. So I kind of want to get your thoughts on that and anything that comes to mind when I talk about that, because I thought that it was very fascinating when that happened, when she's like, oh, we just cured a haunted house by doing past life work. So what do you think about that? Well,
spirits who want to come through, they can come through, even if, like, a lot of times when you start a session, a mediumship, a lot of mediums just say, let's see who comes through. I say, who do you want? And let's go right for them. But whoever, it sounds like the person and this woman said she didn't think it was her.
No, this particular person said that she thought it was. The reason that I brought that part up is because I have another couple stories that I could tell you, just to kind of give you an idea that there's, in my audience especially, that it's not like a linear thing. It's not like an A, B, C, D kind of. This whole entire space is not what they think it is. Especially coming into this, I have a lot of people that are just barely coming into this kind of like a spiritual awakening,
right,
learning these topics. And a lot of them this might be their first exposure to past lives and mediumship. And I just want to know, like, what you think is happening with these people that experience like healing ghosts, or people who are coming through that are not necessarily their past lives. Things like that. Things that are kind of outside of the norm. I kind of want to know what your thoughts are.
But they're coming through you. They're not coming to them.
They're coming through the people that I'm doing a past life regression on. So it's almost kind of like they're coming through as a medium through me, but through the session. It's kind of strange. I've had it happen multiple times.
Well, it's an interesting story. I don't know quite what to make of it, but the fact that whatever you did or whoever you brought through needed to come at that time and to help heal this person or to solve an issue. If you said that woman feel like there were spirits in the house, and now after your session, they're gone. Whatever you brought through was meant to come right then and do that. That's all I can say. I don't.
I know it's kind of like just kind of threw it out there.
Well, remember something that could have been also that could have been a spirit for the spirit in the house. Okay. And that regression may have been for the house spirit. Do you understand? The one that she says the house is haunted? Whatever came through could have been for her as well. The spirit that was hanging around. And it just seemed to help both of them in some way.
It was really interesting. It really was.
And that's an interesting thing, because a lot of times spirit will give a message that works two ways, okay? That has two different meanings. And that second meaning will come up as well when they listen to it again. Oh, it means this. Oh, it also meant that, which I didn't think of in the session. So it seems like this was a double, that the words that were chosen for your client were the words, and I have goosebumps all over me, and that's my sign from spirit that that's what was happening. That the words that were chosen not only affected the client, it also was relatable to the entity in the house. So you got a double whammy there. That's the only thing I can think of, because spirit doesn't make mistakes. So something they said brought some peace to whoever was hanging around.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder if that's kind of what's happening with a lot of these, like, whatever you want to call them. I don't really like the term ghost. I kind of have been calling them.
Ghost is negative. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like
it's got kind of some dirty energy attached to it. That word, I call them fragments sometimes, because to me they kind of just feel like fragments of people who kind of break off during like a traumatic moment that need to be reintegrated, if that makes sense. Like bring them back and reincorporate them into yourself, but they're kind of fragments scattered around. What are your thoughts on, like, what do you think ghosts are? Because I
feel that the ghosts have not accepted their passing. They have not gone through the light, that there's something that's keeping them earthbound or something unfinished, like unfinished business, that your regression to this woman finished some business with them and they could pass on. So, I mean, it's the unseen is a mystery. Okay. It's just a mystery. There's nice ghosts who are just there and want to play with your kid, on the swing or push them on the swing. And there's ones who rattle chains at night or you could just feel a negative thing. It's just, you're asking questions that I don't have answers for. And that's why you're asking, because you don't have answers for them either. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I just know that it's unfinished business. And a lot of times, especially right after they pass, they will not transition right away. They want to make sure that their loved ones are okay. And that can take a very short time to maybe several months. So, but they just want to make sure, and then they can breathe. Then they can go on.
Yeah, well, it's refreshing that you don't have all the answers.
I don't. We're talking spirit stuff, Until I'm a spirit, I'm not going to know all that. And I refuse to get into that position right now. I'm not ready. I got work to do.
A lot of people, they'll come on and they'll just, like, no matter what question, they'll just be like, well, because of this. It's really nice to have you on because you're just like, I don't know. And that's the thing. Like, for my audience, like, even the people who are in a position of being a practitioner, a medium, a regressionist, whatever, we don't have all the answers.
No.
And we're just people too. So all of us,
we're in the human form now. So yeah, we're just people, and all I can do is give you from my point of view or what is possible in my mind. But nobody's got all the answers.
Yeah, and I like it. So thank you for not having the answers, Barbara. I appreciate it.
Yeah. It's better to be thought of. This is from Benjamin Franklin. It's better to be thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. Okay, so I always feel that's a good one.
I like that too. So that session was it was a profound moment for me where I was like, oh, there's way more to this than I was thinking.
Yes.
Do you have a moment when you've been doing like a mediumship session? Do you have a moment that you're comfortable sharing where you kind of had a moment of, okay, maybe there's more to this than I thought? Like a profound moment that kind of affected you and made you kind of shift your position or be like, oh, you know what? Yes. I don't know.
It's not that I didn't know, but there is one thing that happened that made me very interested because I am certified with the Helping Parents Heal organization for people who have had children who pass. And something really profound in the beginning of my journey as a medium that just changed how I felt about things and changed my direction to really wanting to help parents. I had a woman come to me, and her 6-year-old son had passed through cancer. And in my sessions, I do a Q&A so that because people, when someone passes, there's some things in the back of your mind. Gosh, I wonder this. I feel so guilty. Will he forgive me? There's so many things that we do a Q&A on. But the first question I always say, I don't want to know what the question is. I want you to just think of it in your mind, and here's the box. They love you. They know what's going on in your mind. They want to help you, and they're not God. So she said, okay, I've asked him a question. And I said, well, your son is showing me he's up in heaven, riding on the back of a giant butterfly, okay, dive bombing, having the best time on this butterfly. And she starts crying. And I say, gosh, what was the question? She goes, you won't believe this. She said, what are you doing in heaven? Now, the interesting part is she told me that when her son died, she bought a book on how to tell children their sibling has passed. And she said, she sent me a picture of it. She said in this book that she read to her daughter was a page that showed a little boy riding on the back of a butterfly in heaven. So that reading was so profound for her, the mother, because she knew, yes, he is here with me. Yes, he put that into my head to ask that question. And that she knew his consciousness was still here. And he knew that he was around her because he's here to help. And that he was there when she read the book to his sister. That reading changed me because of how it changed this woman's life going forward. Taking that little bit of doubt of what's he doing and where is he and does he know that I'm here? I mean, all those questions, she just had peace. So when things like that happen, they surprised me too. I don't know. I don't know what the question was, but right. Spirit did.
So how did it, like, how would you say it changed you? Like what shifted at that moment?
The first thing it made me feel like, gosh, helping people who have lost children is going to be one of the focuses I do. Because I don't think anybody who has children can say they can't think of anything worse or more painful than losing a child. So we're talking about like the number one grief somebody could have would be losing a child.
It's terrible.
Terrible. I can only. So that's how it changed me. It put me on this thing that I really can make a difference to somebody who is in the worst pain anybody could be in. And I wanted to do that. It just changed my trajectory. I mean, I read for everybody. They could lose a grandmother and it doesn't matter. But I'm just saying that getting involved with helping parents heal gave me the opportunity to do more of that as a certified medium with them.
So would you say, for people who aren't really that familiar with mediumship, would you say that it's more leaning towards helping people process like grief as a generalization, like as a whole?
Yes, it's connecting with a loved one. Okay? It's getting some answers. It's feeling that, okay, they're all right and they're here and their consciousness is on. I always say your loved ones aren't gone. They just went a little ahead of you, okay? You're all going to meet up for the party, okay? And it's all going to be wonderful. All you have to do is have a little patience and understand your lessons are not through in this lifetime, but your sons were. We all sign a little contract. We all know what we're going to do and how we're going to help somebody in our family pod. work off some karma. And we all know this, except the minute we're born, it's erased, okay? Because it's not a test if you know what the question is.
That's true.
So we're here to be tested and to evolve. That's it. And also, when you look at it that way, because I always try to have parents or anybody, any client, pivot from the thought of this horrible heaviness and low vibration grief to one, okay, this is supposed to happen this way, and it is for a reason, for my benefit as well. The mother got something out of it, and she will not know what it is until she transitions as well. I always tell people, there's a big whiteboard there. As soon as you go, you're going to see sun passing, what it meant for your life to help you as well. Because that's what we do. We help each other with lessons that we all have to learn. And if you think of things differently, it can help. And I also am a big proponent of laughter, because laughter and joy are the highest, some of the highest vibrations. And that's what you want, high vibration. It opens up the pathways for your loved one to come in on their own. So I always say it lowers your blood pressure. What it actually does in the brain by bringing in like dopamine, it makes a break in the grief. It slides in, so for that few minutes, it's lessened, okay? It just moves things around, and the deepness of the grief is settled because of the hormones and the things that are coming into your brain. So it's really very therapeutic. I have to tell you that 15 minutes of laughter equals 2 hours of restorative sleep. That's how powerful the dopamine and the serotonin, that's how medical and how it can really help physically.
Yeah, and I know, when we first talked, you were telling me that you're a big proponent of laughter and and humor and stuff. And I do a little bit of channeling here and there sometimes.
Well, yeah, I see you're a jack of all trades, okay? You get them back a couple hundred years, you bring them into the future, you got everything going on there.
Yeah, might as well explore it all, right? And what I've noticed is like, gosh, a lot of people when they think about like spirit guides or like whatever you want to call it, spirit, they think of it as like this super serious thing, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like they'll just be like, it's super serious. It's super like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like mystical
and magical.
But like when I've had a lot of channeling sessions that I've done where like they'll make a joke and they'll just like start laughing. And like I'll remember a little bit of it. And the first few times it happened, I was like, hey, that was a little weird. But now it's just kind of like sometimes they'll have attitude or they'll be sarcastic at you. And it's super, like a lot of it is serious, but some of it's not. They'll make jokes.
And we keep our essence when we go over. You could be a wife beater in your last life, but that's not who you are. You're just playing a part. We're all playing roles in a play to help each other grow. So, and your spirit guides are there for you because they know how you work. I like things fast. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. They give me things fast. I can get into a trance in, 30 seconds. Okay. Some people will take 10 minutes. I just boom. So they work with me the way I am, the way my essence is, was like, let's cut to the chase. So yeah, if you're funny and your father was funny and that's who's coming in, you're going to get something. And so, sometimes the laughter that wakes me out of my little trance, if I do it at the end, and I'll say, what was that? And I'll say, you just said, I'm still doing origami. And And she said right before she died, she was doing origami in the hospital, that she was just trying it. So, you can't make this stuff up. So.
Yeah, that's interesting too. I told you I was going to ask this question, and I always ask somewhat hard questions just to kind of keep it a little grounded. And my question is like, having those things come through, the question would be like, how do you know that you're not just like making shit up? You know what I mean? Because that's a big fear for a lot of people when they're going into stuff like this, is like, gosh, it feels like I'm making it up. Am I crazy?
Well, trust, I feel, is the hardest thing to overcome as doing anything like this, a medium, a psychic, whatever. You have to trust. And Spirit's already giving me goosebumps right now, okay? I can't tell you how many crazy things come out of my mouth that I think, should I really say that? I had a grandmother, and the client was her granddaughter. And the grandmother says, and if you want more money, you better do phone sex. And I just said, I didn't say that. I don't know how it came out of my mouth. I'm sorry. And the granddaughter's hysterical laughing. She goes, this phone sex thing with my husband, we've had a running joke going on for years. You want another chair? This one still works. Go do some phone sex. And she said, and we had a joke about it last night, and how it's just like my grandmother to bring it up. You never know. You got to go with it. Some of the craziest things it doesn't have to mean anything to us as the person who's bringing through the information. It only has to make sense to the client. And things will come out. I always tell them, your spirit will give you what you need to know now, not what you want to know now. So we are just the vessel.
That word right there, when I go into a trance, that's what I refer to myself as, is the vessel. It's really weird. It's really weird. And, building, for anybody listening to this and you're questioning that, trusting, leaning into your intuition or your mediumship or whatever it is you're struggling on trusting, the trust will come with time, but you have to give trust to get it. And the more trust you give, the more trust you're going to receive. And it's kind of like a never ending feedback loop.
Absolutely. That was beautifully said. It's true. It was like the last thing in my journey, to do this was just trust. And because you always think, is this my imagination, or because it's so weird? And if I start to feel that at any point, I just sit back and take a few deep breaths and get back in. And then it's the same thing that's coming out. So I know you just need to trust it.
Yeah, that could be the hardest part too.
It is. I agree. I haven't heard anybody else say that, but that's, for me, it was the hardest to just let go. What's the worst thing that could happen? You could be wrong. I could be wrong. So, mediums, if they say if you have an 85% accuracy rate, it's a good reading. So I put a lot of pressure on myself. So just say it, and they'll surprise you with a yes. I understand that. I had a woman who was so missing her husband, who had passed 10 years ago, and she comes to me every year on his angel day. And she said, you always tell me he's around me. He can hear me. He knows what I'm doing. She said, I haven't felt him in 6 months. I think he might have a girlfriend on the other side. She was a mess, okay? And she said, if it's really true that he's here, he'll be able to tell me what TV show I binge watched over the pandemic. Okay, I turned white, like, for a second, my human mind came, how am this is going to come through? And her husband was there with me, and he said it was Outlander. And I said it, and she said, yes, it was Outlander. I could have fallen off the chair. I was as surprised and delighted that she was. And for a second, I swear I was apprehensive to say it, because I didn't want to be wrong and I didn't know if my mind was doing it, but I just trusted and they didn't let me down.
You know what? It's so interesting when stuff like that happens. I remember one time I was doing I was in a trance channeling for this lady, and she was like, I'm really worried about my daughter. She's going into junior high school, and I'm really worried about it. I'm not sure why. I just have this, like, we've been kind of disconnected lately, whatever. And so I sat there, and what came through is like a pretty sensitive topic in today's society, right? But like the conscious me was like basically asleep almost, right? Because when I go into a trance, I'm literally like snoring and talking. And but I remember this because conscious me kind of came back up a little bit, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I should say this, but
sexuality.
I started saying it, and I was like, well, your daughter's gay. And we know that you've been raised, because we say, like, when I say we say whatever. And it was like, we know that you have been raised to look down on that. But if you want to have a good relationship with your daughter, you need to accept her. And this was like 6 to 8 months before she like went into junior high school. Right. Middle school.
I can imagine the mother just in that panic.
Yeah, and I could feel it, the energy, because I can kind of pick up on that. I'm not like a very gifted empath, but I could pick up on it a little bit. And she just sits there in silence, and I was just like, you need to accept her and just love her, because it's not going to change who she is. It's just a part of who she is, and in accept it. Yeah, mm-hmm. Exactly, and just accept it. Well, like a year and a half later, I get an email, and the lady was just like, oh my God, you were right. And right there, I was like, wow, that's powerful. That was a moment for me that made me go like, you know what? I was scared I was making that up. I was scared that I was making that up, and I clearly wasn't, because the daughter ended up coming out as gay, and the mom, she was prepared for it. She was ready for it, and she had already come to terms and accepted it, because, while there's nothing wrong with it, some people were raised to think there is, and that was a really big hurdle for her, and I'm really proud of that person. If you're listening, excellent work, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
I want to pause here for a moment, because if you've been listening and something in you is feeling curious or even a little pulled towards this work, I want to speak to that. I offer one-on-one healing sessions and past life regressions. These sessions are about exploring what's been coming up for you, whether it's patterns in your life, emotions that you've been carrying, or questions that you don't seem to have clear answers for, even sometimes physical symptoms. If you feel that nudge, you don't have to overthink it, you can just follow it. Head on over to exploringhealing.com/services to learn more and see if it feels like a good fit for you, and if not, that's completely okay too. Just being here and exploring this episode is already meaningful. All right, now let's get back to the episode.
So when you go into a trance, I know this is kind of a subject pivot. When you go into a trance, you just like get goosebumps and stuff, because when I do it, my legs go numb, and then I kind of just fall asleep. So I don't know what
you go into a super, super deep trance. Okay, let's call me a middle trance. You probably could bring through, Winston Churchill if you wanted. Okay, I mean, I think your trancing is a little more advanced than mine. That was like the last thing I did about a year and a half ago, because I was afraid of it. I thought it was a little freaky.
Why were you afraid of it?
Because you had to let go of control, and I'm a type A personality. I didn't want to let go. And my guides helped me let go. They literally picked me up to take me across this big chasm, that was in my mind, and just flew me across and sat me down, and I was over the hump. And then I could do it. I went to Hogwarts, the Arthur Findlay College, and one of the classes I was in was trance, and the teacher said every time you're about to let go, you shake yourself to wake yourself up. She goes, trance is not for you. No, don't even think about it. And I want to let her know, I'm doing really well, okay? Don't tell somebody they can't do it because, that's a challenge for me. So I just felt I didn't want to let go. I didn't want to let go. I didn't know what was going to go on. So I don't go quite as deep as you. There's no snoring involved in my trances. I just want to get my head out of it. I just get fuzzy. Okay. I understand the first sentence I'm supposed to give. That's like, it keeps going around and around. And once I give that, then I just lay back and let them do it. And I'm still at the point, because I've only been doing trance for like a year and a half, that I'm sort of shocked when they say I said something that I didn't really know. I had a woman who it was a wonderful reading. Her daughter came through beautifully, but at the end she goes, I want a real gold nugget. To end this. And I said, okay, I'm going to go in trance. We'll see what she comes up with. And in it, she, the daughter, I said, I'm jump roping. And her daughter was mentally and physically challenged her whole life. I don't think she was really verbal. Well, she was a little verbal, but I said, I'm jumping rope, and I'm doing hopscotch, and she was doing all these things, playing jacks. And the woman said to me, she goes, that's the gold nugget. Well, no, then I said, I'm sorry. Cause she told me all that stuff. I said, I'm sorry, that's what I got. Your daughter just showed me all of these normal things. And she said, that's the gold nugget. She said, my daughter always would tell me, Mom, I just want to be normal. And you just gave me that. So I was like almost apologizing for not, telling her daughter had 6 toes. And she's saying that's the gold nugget, because those are the words that she would always let me know, that she just wanted to be like everybody else. And she used the word normal. You never know. You just got to go with it.
Yeah, that's a beautiful moment. I feel kind of dry. I feel like there's multiple people out there that kind of need to have, they're struggling with this. The next question I'm going to ask, I kind of feel like there's a few people out there that will need to hear this. So my question is this, for some context. You were kind of thrown into this a little bit. Like, it just kind of happened. Like, you were like, oh, okay, I guess I'm a medium now. Right? So I know that's happening, right? A lot of people, it's kind of like a slow drip. It's like a faucet. Like, if you just like leave the faucet on and it's like drip, drip, drip. That's kind of happening like all over the place right now, where people are activating. My question is if for someone out there who is having this happen to them, when they're like, oh, am I psychic? Am I a medium? What would you suggest that they do? How can they handle it? Because I know that's like, it can be scary when these things happen, especially if it happens out of nowhere. If they've got orbs flying around and things flying off the shelves, and they're hearing things that they walk by someone and they know something about them, and they're like, oh, okay, I better not, have their blinders on.
Embrace it. It is the most fascinating. Your days will never be boring. You will just find a whole new part of yourself. But do take a class, okay? You don't want to go running around not knowing what to do with what you're feeling. You need a class in mediumship or psychic. And pick somebody really reliable, like Suzanne Giesemann. That's who I started with. And everybody can do this. we have all the tools. You don't need a whole toolbox with 15 different things in there. All you need is a soul, okay? So unless you're Beelzebub, you're going to be able to do this, okay? You've got a soul, you can bring this out. Now, what Suzanne used to say is everybody can do this. She goes, just like everybody can learn how to play the piano, but there's only going to be a few Mozarts. So how well you want to work on this and expand is really up to you. But the first thing to do to feel if you have an affinity toward it or you find it exciting or what's going on with me, take a class. Take a class. And there's some free things out there, like the website SoulProof.com, SoulProof. Mark Pitzik, who's like one of the pioneers in the field, he offers, you can learn anything you want about soul and mediumship and everything. It's all free. It's like a one-stop resource. And he also gives free classes on your soul and everything. So it doesn't have to cost you anything to find out. And watching podcasts like this, where you're going to learn about something that you may have a little fear about, or you're wondering if you've got any juju, or you don't know. Listen, when I started doing this, I thought my mother was like 103 and a half. And I said, I got to tell her that I'm talking to Dad. So I went to her and I said, Mom, I didn't know how to say this to you. I didn't know if it's going to put you over the edge, which she wanted to go anyway. And I said, Dad's been talking to me. I didn't know how you take it. She said, your grandmother was dragging me around to fortune tellers and tea leaf readers and psychics when I was like 6 years old. She had the juju. She had people lining up to talk to her. I said, Mom, you're almost 104. When were you going to tell me? I mean, I didn't know that it was in my family or that my grandmother had it. Ask your parents, ask some people, because people didn't talk about it then. It's just a couple centuries before we were, burned at the stake for saying something like that. So people didn't talk about it. But you may have some in your lineage. And if not, you can work really hard and get to where you want to be.
So would you say that it's common for people to have it in their family line?
A lot of people do have somebody who dabbled in that kind of thing and that you don't even know about. Or even your mother could say, you know what, I always felt I was a little psychic. I was really good at the Academy Awards, checkbox, who's going to win. There's little things that can activate people and let them tell you. But it could be that you might have something if you really feel you do. I always thought I had a little psychic, tell my friends at 13, I said, I think I'm a witch. Okay, I didn't know what else to say. What am I going to say? I just felt a little psychic. But other than that, and enjoying watching the shows with mediums and paranormal things, I didn't. If you told me 50 years ago that I was going to be doing this, I'd say, you're nuts, okay? That was the last thing I could ever think of. What about you? Did you always know you had something?
Me, I grew up in a haunted house, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I had it was a lot. There was a lot. I used to wake up in my bedroom at night and hear all kinds of things. Right, right on that edge of consciousness where like you're almost awake, but you're still kind of asleep. And a lot of people, they'll say like, oh, that was sleep paralysis. But like, there's a lot of other things that went along with like hearing voices and stuff that I just couldn't really explain. And for me, it's not like, I never felt like I was psychic, But there's a lot more to like spirituality and mediumship and stuff than being psychic or not psychic. For me, what I always felt is that my calling has been to heal people. So when I was a kid, even when I was like 7 years old, even adults, they would all come to me with their problems, and they would all just like start talking to me about their problems all the time. Even people like my own age they would say stuff to me along the lines of, I don't open up to people. Because I would ask them, because, it got to a point where I just was kind of like, might as well get it out of the way. If you're going to tell me all your problems, might as well just do it now. Right. But I wouldn't say it like that, obviously. but they'd be like, I don't open up to people. Well, 10 minutes later, they're telling me all their trauma. And I'm just like, yeah, I know. Go ahead and tell me, like, everybody. And like for a while, I was just like, why me? I have my own problems. I have my own issues. I have my own emotions that I have to work through. But yeah, it took me until I was an adult to kind of reconcile all of those experiences and put them together in the 2020 hindsight and say, you know what? My calling for my whole life has been to help people process their trauma. I'm talking people of all ages, all the way up into, 60s, 70s age people, other kids, even my parents sometimes, they would catch themselves like just,
They saw something and felt something in you, that they trusted you and that you wouldn't judge them. And in this world, it's really hard to find somebody who isn't going to judge them.
Exactly. And to me, I just don't have it in me. It's just not, unless you're hurting someone, like actively hurting someone, I'm just like, you know what? You're just living your life.
Living your life. This is your life. You picked it. These are things you got to work on. Just, it's okay. It's all okay. It's all going to work out. And you're going to want to come back again, even though you don't believe it right now.
Well, thank you. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, for anybody out there listening to this, it's really, if you feel like you have some kind of a spiritual gift, you have it for a reason. Even if it kind of feels, sometimes it can feel like a curse. I thought that my gift was a curse for a long time because, like I said, I was like, I have my own issues. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. I just want to live my life. But as an adult, I would be doing a disservice to everybody in my life that I come in contact with by not just doing what I do and just letting people get it off their chest. It's not that hard. Well, it takes a couple minutes. It's not that much.
It would have been nice if you had someone to talk to that understood what you're going through and could explain it a little, that you have a gift. Because it is a gift for people to trust you and want to talk to you and give you, tell you, get things. You're helping them. I mean, it's like you're like a child therapist. And you didn't really understand it. So it was a lot of pressure on you. I'm feeling that it was almost a burden.
I would cry, actually. I'd like at night sometimes I would like cry and be like, why me? This is so hard for me. But yeah, it's really been a blessing in my life. And
when you figured it out.
I've never talked about this.
Everybody else's problems. You were like an empath, just absorbing it. And then to hear that stuff going on in the middle of the night, it must have been sort of torture for you in a way.
Oh yeah, there was definitely like I'll say like a predatory, almost like kind of a spirit in that house that I won't really get into too much. But yeah, I've never really talked about it. Like you asked me that question about, if the child that have I known that I had these things for a while. I've never actually talked about that. Thank you for asking me about that. It was very interesting.
Well, there was spirit told me to. Is there anyone in your family that's got this juju?
Oh man, I have talked about this one before. I know that my siblings are naturally gifted psychics. I know that they are, because I've done sessions on them where they have fully channeled spirits. That, like the one that I told you, where the spirit came through and said, word for word, Ian? And I said, yes. And they said, I don't think that I'm Taylor's past life. And I was like, this was when I was first starting, very first. It freaked me out because I didn't understand. And I was like, okay, well, what are you then? And she said, well, I guess I'm like a ghost. And I was like, okay, well, why are you here then? And I was invited here. And I was like, well, I didn't invite you here. And she's like, no, Taylor's guide invited me here. Right? But when my brother, he fully embodied someone too, a guy named Breck Stevens from Louisville, Kentucky. I remember clear as day. Like, my brother, he had to spell, he was talking in a southern accent like this, like a deep, smooth southern accent.
Wow.
And then he was like, Louisville. And I was like, Louisville? Where? Can you spell it for me? And he's like, well, yeah. And he laughed at me, and he was like, Louisville, Louisville. And I'm like, Louisville? No, my brother, he didn't know anything how to pronounce Louisville. You know, if he looked at Louisville, he would pronounce it Louisville, because that's how he would say it here in Utah. But Louisville, there's no way. And he just like embodied this dude, Breck Stevens. The dude told me all about his wife and his wedding and his kids and how he died. And it was wild.
Did you look it up?
Yeah, I did. And I couldn't find anything because it was from the 70s, and he died in the he died in the 70s from in a construction accident from a piece of rebar going through his head, I guess.
Oh boy.
And the guy literally, when he did that, he was like, "Oh man, what a horrible way to go." And like multiple times, my siblings, like, they won't do hypnosis anymore, actually, because it scared them so bad, because they can just fully like
wow. So you come from a line, like a really strong lineage of people who had the gift.
I think I might come from
you might
either that or it active, because my parents, they don't do anything like that. They don't talk about it.
And sometimes it can skip. It can skip. My mother didn't have it. She couldn't read me, whatever I was thinking, but my grandmother had it. So it doesn't have to be. But obviously, if all of you guys can do this is something in your heritage.
I think it is. But I know that
why don't you take yourself back and find out, where you got it?
That's a targeted session like that might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, talk to just bring your higher self out. They know everything.
Well, I already the answer just popped in my head. For me, it says it's just who I am. I've always been like this. I've always had the gift of, the word charity popped in my mind. Transformation, guiding, just
all
help.
Makes sense.
Yeah, those words. I'm not like super zeroed in on it right now, but those words were just popping in my head. And my siblings, they're very much worldly people. So, and then it scares them. My brother, he doesn't want to touch it. My sister is actually afraid because of what hers was really intense though. I talked about it on another podcast recently, but it was actually heart-wrenching as a father, because she channeled a little girl, like an 8 to I can't remember how old, like 8 or 11 years old or something like that, and the little girl ended up getting killed in her own bed by a stranger. But the girl was like talking, and she was laughing, and she was so cute, such a sweetheart. And she was laughing because she was like my sister told me that it was almost like she was like sifting through my sister's memories while she was channeling her. And she was talking about how she was laughing at us because she said, "You guys ride around in little boxes." And I'm like, "Oh, cars." And she's like, "Yeah, you just sit in these little boxes and they just go." And she was laughing about it. And then she she said something about a movie, and she was like, I just learned what a movie was.
Wow.
That's interesting.
So your sister's just having spontaneous spirit come through her. She didn't even...
We were doing a hypnosis session.
I see. Okay.
We were doing a hypnosis session, and that's when this was happening. As she had this little girl kind of sifting through her memories and like saying, "Oh, I just learned what this is. Oh, that's interesting."
Do you think that was one of your past lives of your sister coming through?
Because that's the one that I told you about, where the spirit said, "I don't think I'm one of Taylor's past lives." And then she also started talking. I haven't talked about this either. What really freaked my sister out was that this little girl spirit started saying that she was wandering around for she doesn't know how long, and then she came through my sister, and then all of a sudden it was like she was awake again, is what she said. She was like, I don't want to go back. And I was like, well, I'm sorry, but you can't stay here. That's not an option. And so I just kind of encouraged her to reach out to her guides. But
follow the light. I mean, that's what I see in movies. Just like there's a light. Look at the light. Go into the light.
Yeah, but she was saying some kind of creepy things too. She was saying that there's a lot of like angry spirits walking around all the time, and there's a lot of scary things that she said that she got chased sometimes, which kind of freaked my sister out. Yeah. And so it was, as a father, it was really heartbreaking. And I really wish that I would have known more of what I was doing back then so that I could have assisted her better. But I did tell her to reach out to her guides, and I really hope that she took initiative and did that, because she was such a sweetheart. She was such a sweet little girl. I just feel so terrible. But yeah, I guess bring it back to answer your question. Yeah, probably in my family. My grandparents are passed away, so they... Right. I don't know if they are.
Well, I'm going to have to give you a reading. You have to set up a reading with me, and I'll read you and get your grandparents here, and you can give me a past lifer. We'll do a swap.
Oh, totally. That would be awesome.
That'd be great.
That'd be awesome. It's so fun doing past life regressions. And yeah, I don't know about what it's like to be a medium, but it sounds interesting for sure.
Well, I believe in them because it answers a lot of questions, okay? When I was in high school, we had to pick a PE class. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do archery. I won't get sweaty. I won't have to fix my hair. Mm-hmm. It'll be perfect. Within 2 weeks, I was on the boards as the highest rated archer in the school, okay? I never picked up a bow and arrow before. And in my past life, I was an Indian. I was an Indian woman, okay? And it just all fell through. And I'm a great shooter. I do target practice. They all go into the heart or the brain. And I thought, and then I remembered when I was in kindergarten, I had an Annie Oakley lunchbox. Everybody else had Barbie, okay? Mm-hmm. I had Annie Oakley. But even those little things, they all make sense, because I always wondered, why am I different? How can I do this? So it's fascinating if you can link it to things that you remember in this life, that the DNA, it comes through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Before we kind of wrap things up, do you have any questions about the past life stuff while you got me on here, just from somebody who hasn't really
Well, it's interesting. I was swapping sessions with someone who does past life hypnosis, and I wasn't really hypnotized, but she just kept asking me questions, and I kept answering them like I was in the 16th century. And what was going on with, I didn't want to marry this duke, because he was old and ugly. And I ran away. Okay. Now I said, well, how do you know I didn't make that up? She said, you didn't. You answered those questions. Those were, and if she hypnotized me, I wasn't aware. I was just answering the questions like mm-hmm. I knew the answers, and that I was that woman. Is that a past life regression? She told me it was real.
Yeah, so the thing with hypnosis that you have to understand, and I think this is going to be really good for someone else out there too, is the thing you have to understand about it is it's all about brain waves, right? We can kind of my job as the hypnotist is to get you into the theta brain wave state. You have you have beta, alpha, theta. Theta is where you can enter into, it kind of lets you slip into this consciousness stream if you get deep into
Right.
theta brainwaves.
Which I have to do when I do a trance reading. So
Exactly.
I guess I slipped right in without really even knowing it.
And you have to, the thing is like theta is like a spectrum. It's like a big spectrum of brainwaves. And at the top of theta, that's where your imagination lives. That's where your imagination lives. So you have to pass through your imagination to get to that point. If you're not using your imagination, you're not going to be able to get into hypnosis. So people who have that thing where they're like, I think I made it all up. Well, good, because you need your imagination to get down into the past life stuff. You have to pass through it to get there. So that's what I tell people is like, yeah, and let's just say, okay, no, it wasn't real. It was still a real experience. You still got something out of that experience. And there's different levels of being hypnotized. Like as the hypnotist, if I'm watching you, there's different like physical symptoms of being hypnotized. Like you get like the rapid eye movement. People will like twitch. There's different physical things that happen when you're hypnotized. And so a good hypnotist, they will be able to watch your body while you're being hypnotized and kind of tell if you're, even if you don't feel like it mentally, sometimes you can be physically hypnotized and still be fully awake and aware. And that's actually a very, very common thing. Another common thing is people will feel when they get like really deep into it, they'll feel like they're spinning. A lot of the time it feels for me counterclockwise for some reason. And I've kind of had that happen where people say they're spinning counterclockwise, which is interesting. I don't know why that happens, but like a lot of people will be like, oh, I'm spinning. And I'll just be like, okay, are you spinning clockwise, counterclockwise? And I'll be like, counterclockwise. Really weird. Really interesting. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, I always tell clients as well when they tell me something, I said, you have to trust it even if you think it's your imagination, because that's how we communicate, through our imagination. It comes into my head, I see this, I feel this, whatever. So yeah, it's going to come over as imagination, but it doesn't mean it is. So that was interesting when you said that. Yeah, we're going to have to do a swap-a-roo.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you want to do it, we can do it.
All right.
It'll be really interesting, especially because, you know what you're doing. You know how to get into a trance. And that trance for you being a medium is going to be very similar to the trance that you're going to have. The difference is what we need to do is relax your body first. So your body will be, you'll just be comfortable. You just kind of relax. I have a kind of a method that I go through to relax your body.
I can't wait.
Yeah, you need it. Everybody needs it. A lot of people, they'll come out of it and they'll just be like, wow, I feel like I just took a really long nap. And I was like, good. That's exactly what we're looking for.
Right. Fantastic.
Yeah, well, we'll set that up. And so, Barbara, let's talk about you for a second. Let's talk about like what you got going on, your business, your website, sessions, anything like that. Lay it all on the table so my audience can get in touch with you.
Well, I've been a guest on 100 podcasts in the last 9 months. So I've been very busy doing that. My website is bannermedium.com. Couldn't be easier. You could book or just learn about me. And I have little 30-second snippets of amazing things that happen in a session, just like, and most of them are funny that you just like, okay, can't believe that one. But I don't have a book to sell. One day I might. But I just love what I do. I just love what I do. And I have just a passion, and I just want to make sure that everyone feels lighter. And I also, in each session, I teach I teach my client how to do a little exercise that makes them understand your loved one is with you, and he put that into your head. Can I show the exercise?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I had a host, and I said, I'm going to teach you a little exercise so you'll know that your dad is around you all the time, because I had just done a session with her. And I said, 1, 2, 3, what is the first item that comes into your head? And she said, an elephant. And then she goes, an elephant? Where am I going to see an elephant? Because it doesn't count if you go to the zoo. Okay. It has to be something you are not expecting. It's like, it could be any kind of facsimile or whatever, but it's an elephant, and you will know immediately, my dad did this. So anyway, 2 days later, she sends me a picture. She said, I took my son to mini golf the other day at a place, and they had a hole where there was a 20-foot elephant that
Wow.
you had to
And she sent you the picture and everything.
Yeah, I tell my clients, I said, you send me a picture of that. She took a picture. And then this one was, and I'll just show you this one. A woman lost her 25-year-old son. And she had asked him, because they were going to plan a trip to Mexico, give me the name of a restaurant in that town we're going to. And he gave her the name of a restaurant. And she went to Mexico. Well, I said, 1, 2, 3, what is it? She goes, a baseball hat. She goes, I don't know why I said that, but I said baseball hat. She sends me a picture of the restaurant, and on the ceiling, it's all baseball
Wow,
hats.
that's awesome.
I have pictures that'll blow your mind. So I said, now you know that your son is with you, and he's here, and he put that in your head to tell you, and it came to fruition. You understand that you just had a conversation with your son and asked a question and got an answer. You can do this every week with them. Play with them. Talk to them. You have to ask. Spirit cannot just come down and feng shui your living room, okay? You've got to ask. So that when you come out in the morning and you say, the couch belongs over there, that grandma visited you and told you that, okay?
Grandma's sick of the couch being there.
Yes. So ask them what you want. Have them help you. That's all they want to do. And they just want you to have the most wonderful, joyful life. And they're always going to be there to support you. So make it a thing every week. And you can't change your mind. You can't dawdle, because within 3 seconds, your critical mind will get in, and it will be your imagination. Mm-hmm. Okay? So first thing in, and if it doesn't work, then just try it again.
I like it. So if anybody wants to learn more about Barbara, what she does, head over to bannermedium.com. Link's going to be in the description as well. And Barbara, I'm going to put you on the spot and say, do you have a message that you feel compelled to share, even if it's just for one person that needs to hear it? Something that you want to leave my audience with?
Okay, so this is what I'm getting, like somebody going to like a metal box, which I use for people to throw things in that they don't want to deal with, and somebody is really reticent to open it up because there's something in there, and I feel it's, whether it was trauma or something that they've wanted to bury, and I'm getting chills all over on that, that it's time to bring it out and deal with it, okay? Because you will feel a lot lighter, and that whatever it is a low vibration, keeping you from reaching your potential, and you need to deal with it now. I mean, that's as broad as it can be, but that's what they're showing me in my head. So somebody out there will understand that, and probably a lot of people. Just something you've been sweeping under the rug. It's time to take it out and deal with it and put it behind you. But now with different information. You signed up for it, and you've helped somebody get through their lessons as well. And you'll know what the lesson is later. But for right now, just understand everything we do is a lesson for our souls.
That was a perfect way to wrap up the episode. Thanks so much, Barbara, for coming on my show and talking to me about this. I really learned a lot about like the parallels between like past life regression and hypnosis and mediumship. There's a lot more than I thought. So thank you so much for coming on to my show. I really appreciate it.
And I appreciate being asked. So thank you.
That's it for today's episode. I'd like to give a big thank you to Barbara for coming onto the show, and I would also like to thank you for tuning in. I really couldn't do this show without you guys supporting me and listening every time I release an episode, so big thank you. If you like this episode or you like what I've been talking about on the podcast, I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and follow and share this podcast with somebody who you think might get something out of it. And if you want to come on to the show, or you know someone who might want to come on to the show, you guys can reach out to me directly to talk about it through my email, theregressionsession@gmail.com, or you can go to my website, exploringhealing.com, and click on the contact page, and I would love to have you on my show. Thank you for tuning in